Good evening. How y'all doing tonight? It is Tuesday and kind of the third week into things being more in home and restricted in our movement. And it's been a while since I posted anything. Last night I watched Contagion, and that was really interesting. It's a 2011 film, but it's kind of like they time warp to our present experience in some ways. The second half of the movie gets a little outrageous, but interesting movie to be watching in these times, a little cathartic. And last night I also watched an interview, discussion with my doctor, who is a specialist in long QT syndrome at Mayo Clinic, Dr. Michael Ackerman, and some other physicians about heart issues related to and QT rhythms related to COVID-19 and some of the common, some of the drugs that people are taking to try and treat it, and how we need to be aware of that. What was interesting about that interview was my doctor ended up being a minister to me last night. He talked about relying on our faith and science, that we need to take a calm approach and choose to operate not out of fear, but rather he shared his life verse, which is Jesus did not give us a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and sound mind. And that we need to choose to operate out of power, love, and sound mind, and not out of fear. And to keep calm, which is especially fitting for people who have heart issues, right? Keep calm. Refuse to fear. And he also talked about how perfect love casts out fear. That's from 1 John 4. I just preached on that a couple weeks ago in my videos. And then he ended with his life verse, be not anxious for anything, or actually how he said it was, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by power and supplication, let your requests be known to God, and may the peace that passes all understanding keep your heart and mind in Christ Jesus, and to cling to being anxious for nothing. And that was just a really powerful witness to experience. And what I wanted to share tonight is just a little insight that comes from, I love horses and the horse world. I have a book called Lead with Your Heart, Lessons from a Life with Horses. And here's a little lesson that my friends who are horse people will be aware of. And that is, it's titled Tranquility Comes with Each Turn. And it's about the fact that horses can get wound up and they can get into this spiral of anxiety. They pick up our anxiety and they can experience it themselves. And when they do, just like us, their adrenaline builds up, and that actually can make a horse very dangerous to be around. If you're riding or whatever, it might make them run if they're spooked. If you are a horse rider, you may have had that experience where your horse gets spooked and just starts running because their adrenaline is pumping. And then the running pushes the adrenaline through their bloodstream, and then the rocket is ignited and they just are in full-blown panic. And what do you do when you're in a situation like that and your horse is in panic? There are those that think, well, you just let it run out. But there's some problems with that. One thing is, if your horse is in good shape, it could run for a really long time before it peters out. It could get dangerously overheated. The panic could trigger like a fear status in their minds. And And finally, either the rider or handler could be building a behavior that includes, as the writer says, blind fright. And we don't want to instill that in a horse when you're a rider. So what do? The writer says, we always want to teach our horses to think and not react his way out of things. Letting him run around in circles in a tizzy is a bad habit. So when your horse starts to get reactive, get him turning and moving his feet. The more frenzied the horse, the more turns we want to demand. This holds true both on the ground and under the saddle. Moving the feet is the answer to panic. That means making the horse circle. Notice that the more frequently you make him turn, the more relaxed he gets. Why? Because we are asking him to focus on his handler and not on his own reactivity. By continually turning, he repeatedly disengages his hindquarters, losing his capacity to rev up his engine. And sometimes the secret to resolving life's anxieties is to turn in a new direction. And that's just one of the many lessons we can learn from horses. When you're feeling anxious these days, what is a new direction that you could start turning to de-rev your engines, to slow them down, to get your feet moving? It may literally be moving your feet. I went for a run today. It felt great to just be out in the air and to move my body and move my muscles. It got some of that anxiety to process out of my body. Maybe you are starting with new projects, new or old projects you never finished. I'm realizing that I need to have some things I can finish in a day, because with working at home and then not having the immediate responses in a lot of ways, it's hard to know if I'm done or not, if I've accomplished something or not. And so, I'm gonna try and start beading, and then I can have some fun projects to show off and some cool jewelry to design. So that would give me something that would be a new direction, and I could see a beginning, a middle, and a completion and feel that satisfaction, which I also think, at least for some personalities, can be a very calming experience. So that's just some thoughts for tonight, and I hope you are safe. I hope you are well. My heart goes out to the state of New York. I've been watching in the news, and it's just crazy there, and so my prayers go out to them. And I hope you are having a good night, and I'll probably share some more wisdom from horses, so you will know why I love them so much. All right, peace.